Hi Matt, I'm Amira. You're happy to be videoed and to be recorded. It's going to go on social media, so we're going to give you a link to that later.
Yes, of course.
All right. So obviously you've seen the title on the table. We're trying to be thought-provoking and asking people, if you're not a vegan, which is, veganism in essence is against any form of animal cruelty, then whether you like it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, you somehow support animal cruelty or animal abuse. What is your view on that? Let me start by asking you, are you a vegan or do you eat meat? Or
I eat a lot of meat.
You eat a lot
so
of meat.
I'm coming from the other side of the
that's
spectrum.
exactly what we were hoping as well. Want to speak to somebody from the other side.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so tell me a bit about your view on that then.
So for me personally, I feel as though I do understand the sentiment of vegans. I also do consider myself an environmentalist.
Yes,
But I don't necessarily feel it's hypocritical to be an environmentalist and to consume meat. I would personally feel as though if you look back through the history of culture, that eating meat has been a really vital part of human society, of human evolution, and therefore I feel as though it's almost going on the argument that it's natural for us. It may be even necessary for health as well. I would argue from those grounds and say that perhaps if we were to not, or if we are to become vegan, it may be animal cruelty, but in a different way, not only to ourselves, because we are also animals. And I come from the belief that meat is necessary for our health, so therefore if we remove it, we become more unhealthy, so maybe we are being cruel to ourselves, animals, and therefore
kind of depriving
animal
ourselves of
cruelty,
something
for sure. That's
and we're being cruel to ourselves, so we're we're a type of animal.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I come from a medical background. I'm a doctor, I'm a GP, and I actually studied the science behind the nutrition aspect of veganism. The National Association of Dietetics, the American Association and the British Association of Dietetics both support a vegan diet, and they say that it's sufficient and nutritious in every way. So your vitamins, minerals, proteins, everything you need, you can get from a plant-based diet easily, without any problem. The argument that we have evolved over many, many years to eat meat is flawed, because actually when they look at the evolution of humans, the time period we started eating meat was classed by one of those scientists that studied the evolution of humanity as only it's almost like 5 minutes. We were not actually eating meat for a long time. It was a new thing that was introduced by animal agriculture and those kind of industries when they started. We've always had, plant food, which is nutritious for us, that doesn't have chemicals, hormones, or antibiotics. But the way the meat industry and the dairy industry and the egg industry have been promoting their products over decades and decades and decades has made it very ingrained in our subconscious and culturally that this is something we need, this is something important. Every adverts that you see, every meal, every show, they always put the meat as the centerpiece of the table, which actually it never used to be like that. Meat used to be a rare thing. It used to be a luxury, and only rich people could afford it. Lots of people ate lots of broccoli, cauliflower, aubergine, courgettes, greens, peas. Some people say, we have carnivore teeth. Actually, our teeth, when you look at most of our teeth, they're quite blunted, and they're more similar to the ape's teeth. And what they eat is, vegetations and plants, which are rich in protein as well. We definitely, sometimes people are worried. They're like, vegan, do you hate meat eaters? We don't hate anyone. We're very compassionate people. We love everybody. We love the world. We love people. We love the animals. And we want us and our fellow human beings to wake up and realize that we can make a massive difference to help those animals and also save the planet. I was interested about the environmental thing. So this is Viva. Viva is one of the biggest, it is the biggest vegan charity organization in the UK and Europe. And they're doing a massive campaign now called Vegan Now, and it's focused on the environment. So it's pretty good, and they had a really good advert for that. I don't know if you've seen it, but this is their up-to-date information regarding veganism and how it can help the environment. Do you know that every year 91% of the Amazon deforestation happens for animal agriculture?
I've heard of that statistic. I don't know if I believe it fully, but I do know it's broadcast.
Have you seen I think it was around the summer of this year, there was a big report released by the United Nations 150 scientists collective that basically was saying the same thing. They were saying that it was in the BBC and everything. I don't know if you know, they almost said they were shy of saying people should go vegan. They said a plant-based diet will be the way forward for everybody to save the environment.
Yes.
Because in the next 10 to 20 years, the world is going into an irreversible state of damage and chaos that is not going to be fixed. You know, some nations are going to be destroyed, like, you know, poorer nations like India and Bangladesh, people are going to lose their home. So the fact that some people choose to eat a burger, which can, you know, it needs sometimes 10,000 liters of water to produce a pound of burger, while you need much less water to produce 170,000 kilos of soya, for example.
Yes.
So, you know, the comparison is huge. And so why would we choose? Basically, it's not sustainable. As the population is growing and growing, everybody wants to live in this lifestyle and breed animals and exploit them and make them suffer. For us to have this westernized lifestyle, eating burgers, eating chicken, and actually, I don't know if you know this as well with regards to your health, red meat, also processed meat like bacon, sausages, like slices of deli ham, and chicken this year has all been categorized as level 1 carcinogenic. Did you know that?
Yes. Well,
yeah.
I know that that's been broadcast.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
I don't know if I fully believe
No,
it.
it is. Well, you know, I'm a doctor, and it's in the World Health Organization report, and it's based on massive international studies.
Studies can be interpreted in different ways, though. So again, I don't know if I fully on board. I know that those studies are public.
So something maybe you should look into, isn't it? Because if somebody says
of
to you,
course.
your choice of diet
absolutely.
or what you give your children, for
I
example,
totally agree with that.
It's like giving them a cigarette.
Of
you know, so
course.
something important.
Of course.
Okay.
In terms of those points, though,
Yeah, go on.
So initially we talked about the evolution.
Yes.
And you mentioned that, first of all, it's been a very small amount of time eating these.
Yes.
So I don't
was
know.
An evolution historian.
Yeah, personally, from the research that I've done, it's been the opposite, where I was almost closest relative with a chimpanzee. We share a common ancestor, and chimpanzees do eat a largely frugivore diet.
Yeah.
But they do eat meat on occasion too. They'll catch and kill colobus monkeys and things like that.
But that's really rare.
That's rare for them.
That's rare, and it's also stated it's more to do with the hierarchy and their positioning. In, you know, but it's not like a part of their regular diet.
And I'm glad you mentioned the hierarchy, because that's something I'll talk about later. But then we share a common ancestor. We're not chimps. If we look at the anatomy of humans versus chimps, there are some key differences, especially if we relate it back to diet. So if we look at our gut, we've got a vestigial cecum for fermenting plants. Chimps don't have a vestigial cecum, they've still got that active. So clearly we've moved away from a largely vegetable-based diet to something else for evolution to render that redundant.
With the fact that the fact that our body has evolved even slightly, or our guts, to digest meat or what have you, it doesn't make it correct still to do so.
No,
but I understand your point.
That's one evolutionary point. The other point is that we've got, in terms of the length of the gut in relation to our head size, it's the longest, or the shortest of all the great apes. Again, if you compare it to other carnivores, where between a dog and a cat in relation to a body size, one is an obligate carnivore, one's a facultative carnivore. Very different to other apes. Again, it does seem as though we were evolving in a direction that was favouring meat consumption over a long period of time. I think the Homo erectus is maybe 300,000 years ago, or that's Homo sapiens. Homo erectus 3 million years ago. So we're talking maybe now for at least 3 million years, predominantly meat-based diet. So therefore it's a lot different to just a little snapshot in time of eating meat. We talk about hierarchies then moving forward. When we go into human society, it seems to be a case of that the rich, like you said, would eat meat and the poor wouldn't. Now, that to me doesn't say that's the natural human diet. That to me says those that could afford to access the meat would do so, which probably implies that it was important for nourishment or status or wealth or whatever. Again, implying that it is a very fundamental part of our health and evolution. And with the teeth, again, if we descend from great apes, it's common sense that we would have a lot of related dental features, but our molars are very different from ruminant animals. They're a lot flatter and
Yeah.
broader, and
Yeah.
then we have canines still. We also have hands. Now, if
Yeah.
hands are there to manipulate flesh,
Yeah.
to cook, to take out organs, to
Yeah.
use tools that you
Yeah.
can cut up the
Yeah.
things, we don't need our teeth to do that. If you've got a
Yeah.
wolf or something killing a caribou, it needs to rip all the flesh off and
Everything
consume
with
it
its
with
teeth,
just
yeah,
its
yeah,
We don't have
yeah.
it. We have tools in hands, so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pressure to evolve more predatory teeth
Yeah.
with serrations is
Yeah.
not there for us.
Yeah.
And we can very easily consume meat with the denture
Yeah.
that we have. So I don't see that as a
Yeah.
valid point either.
Okay.
And then, what do we talk about then?
We talked about the environment.
Environment. So again, I do
The Amazon
agree with you.
deforestation and
Deforestation.
use of land and use of water
Yeah.
to keep the animal agriculture going, which is not
Yeah.
sustainable at all.
So undoubtedly,
Yeah,
meat consumption and production does contribute towards deforestation,
Yeah.
and that is really unfortunate.
yeah,
I have seen a few things on sustainable farming with
Yeah.
large cattle herds.
Yeah.
They can rotate where they graze, and the act of their waste products on the grass is actually helpful for the fertilizer
Yeah.
and can sequester a lot of carbon in the air, as opposed to monocrops,
Yeah.
which wouldn't work.
yeah,
But it does contribute towards deforestation. That's really
Yes,
unfortunate.
yeah,
I see
yeah.
that. However, I do feel as though monocrop culture in general, if we look at
Yeah.
palm oil, if we look at corn,
Yeah.
wheat, soy, they are all causing deforestation. So I don't think that's a good argument to hang maybe leaving meat out.
Well, it's one facet,
One
facet of many.
It's one facet.
You know, what about the animals themselves? Would you say you're an animal lover?
I
Have you
would,
had
I
dogs?
would.
Do you have any pets?
I would say I'm an animal lover.
Yeah,
I love wildlife.
Yeah.
And I cherish it greatly when I'm out
Yeah.
in nature. It's a good
Yeah.
experience for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
However, I found that through the consumption of meat, I tend to, because I used to be a vegetarian a few years ago, but my relationship now to wildlife
Yeah.
and animals in general seems closer. It's
Yeah.
almost as though I respect their lives more because I know
Yeah.
they give me nourishment.
Yeah.
And there's that bond I have with them, and I feel
Yeah.
more in tune with the circle of life,
Yeah.
which gives me more compassion for them. I really, really hope that the food I'm eating, the steaks I'm eating,
Yeah.
have come from cows who had good lives. I wouldn't
Yeah.
support
Yeah,
mass
but
production.
do you know that 97%,
Oh, I know.
97% of the meat that you eat that is produced
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
supermarket
Yeah.
has produced by intensive factory farming
Yes.
methods.
And I disagree with
Yeah,
that. I do. That's
have you watched any films about that? Have you,
Yeah, I've seen footage of slaughterhouses and things, and
Yeah.
that's not great. Especially, I think
You know, what does
animals.
it make you feel when you have paid money
Yes.
for that meal, for that meat in your plate, which somehow, unfortunately, I think we become disconnected from
Yes,
when it's
we
served to you
have.
as a meal.
Absolutely.
We're disconnected to that was a life, you
yeah.
know, that was a creature,
Yeah.
and we don't know what happened to it or how it was lived. We just say, oh, just you know, as long as it's cheap, it's a good price.
Yeah, of course.
You know, their life is equals cash.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I wouldn't support large-scale industrial farming of animals. That's
Which is
not
what's
good.
happening though, because we have such a
It's-
huge population.
It's true.
And to feed the population,
Yeah.
we have these massive factory farm, places that eventually send their poorly treated animals to slaughterhouses.
For sure.
Who get killed in the most inhumane ways.
But
because,
I think
you know,
that
they,
does
they want to
depend.
kill them really quickly,
They do.
really fast, and make a lot of money
Yes.
from them.
Depends on where you are in the world,
Yeah.
though.
Does animals deserve? You know, if you're happen, I don't know if you believe in Buddhism or reincarnation.
I'm very much into
Yeah,
that.
I'm a Buddhist as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you believe in reincarnation and if the spirit doesn't die, it just transforms.
Yes.
If you were born into an animal, you just happen to be born into an animal. You open your eyes, like you're a pig. Your mom is a soul. And she's trapped in this metal cage, which is normal for them for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
They can't take a step forward or a step back. They defecate and urinate on themselves.
Oh, yeah, man.
And they're trapped. They can't give you a hug. And if you happen to be a healthy piglet, you'll be allowed to live a little bit longer, to be fattened up, to be sold as bacon. But if you're one of the weaker piglets, they will just pick you by the legs, hit your head hard on the floor or the wall to kill you straight away, because you're just a waste product.
Yes.
You know, they don't want to waste time or energy, and they just throw them away like they're nothing. Do you, as that animal, as that spirit, with the eyes, with the spinal cord, with the experiences that you're having, as a sentient being, do you have a right, even though you can't speak, to have a life? Do you have a right to feel free, to run on the grass, to have water, to live your natural life? Most pigs are killed when they're 6 months old. They're children. the sows, the mother pigs, they will be killed at 4 or 5 years old.
Yes.
Cows can live up to 25 to 30 odd years, but usually they're killed at 4 or 5 years after their dairy milk cycle is finished, after a very torturous existence. You know, so what do you think about that?
Yes, that's more ethics and morality.
Exactly.
That's, I think,
and it's a big. This is actually the heart.
Yes.
Of veganism.
I was going to say, I think this is where veganism has its biggest strengths. In appealing to cases of morality and ethics. My perspective is, first of all, the industrial farm, and I agree. I wouldn't support it. It's not good. It is very much.
I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. We agree on that.
I do feel as though it's very much dependent on where you are. In the UK, for example, the state of our beef industry is pretty good. You don't get a lot of feedlots. You don't get a lot of industrialization. There's a lot of cows out on pasture. They have good lives, and then they are slaughtered, right? And it's pretty humanely too.
Have you seen a movie called Land of Hope and Glory?
No, I've heard of that.
Okay, that is actually because that will dispel your belief that British farming is not industrial farming. It is.
In that case, then I should definitely look at that. I didn't realize
this movie is called Land of... I think it's on one of those cards. Let me just see where it is. I will write it for you. It's not on this card. But this is Dominion. This is a very good documentary as well about industrial farming.
Okay.
But Land of Hope and Glory, it's filmed, I think it was released 2-3 years ago by Erkling Ed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a cross-section, many farms across the UK, Norfolk, Scotland, Yorkshire, loads of places. All by secret cameras, all by activists that infiltrated the farms. They've shown clear evidence of abuse, of mistreatment, and also of the animals having horrendous lives, being crammed in the most filthy, disgusting
Which
conditions.
animals is that about?
Every animal. Chicken, cows, and pigs, and lamb.
Because I know that chicken and pigs definitely don't have a good life in the UK.
No, and pigs are more intelligent than dogs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't it sad how we treat them?
Very sad, and I don't eat pork for that reason. I don't support the cruelty, unless I found organic free-range pork. But from what, maybe I'll check this documentary, but from what I've seen, the beef industry seems a lot better here than it does in America. So is the lamb. We have lots of sheep on pasture. And I know our food standards, in terms of when you compare it to the rest of Europe, is the best when it comes to
That's what a lot of people think and believe, but unfortunately that's a myth.
I think we got the same rating though than the rest of Europe.
But we got a red tractor rating, but RSPCA rating, which doesn't mean a thing.
No, it may not mean
really
anything. But no,
it doesn't.
of course.
It doesn't. It's just. How could an RSPCA says it's okay to put pigs in gas chambers? Did you know that pigs go into gas chambers to be killed?
Yes.
Every animal, if you watch these documentaries, and I know they're really hard. I found it very hard to watch them, but I watch them because, as a doctor, sometimes I have to confront things that are difficult, like cancer or some horrible disease. You have to look at it directly to see what the issue is and how you can make it better. And unfortunately, this is a very ugly, painful, horrific side of how we treat animals that we need to look at it in the eye, because these animals deserve better.
Yes, I think so.
And we really believe they don't deserve to be made into slaves, and for us to exploit them, make money from them, and then kill them at the end.
Yes.
They deserve the right to live just like we do.
That's true. I think it's a slightly different argument to look at how we rear animals for slaughter compared to if we should consume them or not.
Yeah,
so I would
but that is
agree
the question.
with you.
That's why you see, because you're going through, and I understand, going through the way they're raised and reared is horrendous, and I don't agree with that. But if they're free range, organic, which we believe is a myth, because free range is just a term that they have formulated to make people feel better and ethical about buying eggs. Did you know in the egg industry, male chicks are grinded up alive every day? And that happens whether they're free range, whether they're happy eggs, they still kill them in that way, or put them in trash bags, close it and suffocate them. It's horrendous, that they bring them to life and then just kill them like that, and if they're alive, they beat them, very painful process.
Oh, I know, I've seen that, that looks nasty.
And just fill them with hormones and chemicals. They become so obese that they can't walk, they have osteoporosis, hip fractures and displacements, and they're in so much pain, and they pick at each other, because instead of having a group of 12, 14 like chicken would normally be in the wild, they put 30,000 chicken in one shed, a metal factory, and to be free range, they just leave an opening. So some of them at the front can go out, but a lot of them can't.
Yes.
And that's classed as free range.
Yes.
But they still suffer. They have a horrendous life and they have a horrendous death as well.
Yes.
When chicken die, they hang them upside down in the factory. They're thrashing, usually have broken limbs because the way they've been manhandled and put in the box with absolute lack of care and callousness. Once they're in the metal ring upside down, there is a metal blade that goes round and round that chops their neck.
Yes.
The chickens are quite smart and they pull their neck out of their way. So when that happens, they go to the next stage alive, which is being dunked into boiling electric water. And you see them suffering and screaming. And the factory worker don't care. They just want to keep them moving,
desensitized to it.
Yeah. And actually, factory workers, slaughterhouse workers have been shown in studies and statistics to be just as victims. They have higher level of domestic abuse, of drug abuse, of PTSD, depression, alcohol problem, and that's directly related and strongly related to being a slaughterhouse worker.
I can completely see that. I mean, it's a very unnatural environment, and to see that level of violence is
and the suffering you see every day, fighting with the animals to kill them.
But we agree on this.
Yeah, we agree,
that
and that's
industrialization is
good.
wrong. If you're a farmer,
would that convince you then to think about veganism with regard to the environmental argument and with regard to the animals' rights?
So with the environmental argument, again, I feel as though monocrop cultures are just as bad, if not worse, than animal agriculture, so that wouldn't do it for me. You've also got the fact that you've got to defend the monocrops from animals which want to eat them. So you've got to shoot a lot of animals, a lot of vermin, and a lot of them aren't considered vermin by human standards, so we think of rats and seagulls as vermin or whatever. But things like badgers, hedgehogs...
There's quite a lot of... Have you heard of vertical farming?
Yes,
There's lots of new ideas, modern ideas about farming that will stop this problem.
Yeah, but right now, lots of animals are dying from monocrops that are vegan too. And I would argue that...
Well, I wasn't aware of that, but I would look into it. It makes sense,
doesn't it? If you've got a lot of food in one place, things are going to want to eat it. You're going to pesticide it, you're going to spray it, you're going to shoot things. So that doesn't bother me too much in terms of turning to veganism, especially when you consider the sustainable effects of certain types of cattle farming. With the ethical idea, again, I don't agree with industrialization. If it was just a case of industrialization, maybe we'd have something again to go on, but it's not. There is another way. I wouldn't agree that if you're a farmer, you've raised your chickens in your garden, got eggs from them, and then you're going to slaughter them for Christmas or whatever, you're not going to have PTSD.
No.
It's a natural setting that makes sense in the context of evolution. If you think as well about animals suffering, in the wild they suffer terribly in death, usually far worse than how we slaughter them. I know the moments preceding that slaughter is worse because they live in fear in a battery farm or whatever. But in the wild, it's pretty horrific the way they get killed
but
and eaten alive.
At least it's not done at the same level. We kill 56 billion animals a year. It's not at the same level. We are
That's magnitude
we are destroying the world. Because of animal agriculture. 200 species are going extinct every day.
I'd say monocrops got to do that too.
Because we're destroying the habitat, and it's directly linked to animal agriculture.
And monocrops.
But mostly animal agriculture.
I don't know.
I don't know. From the studies that I read and everything.
That's what they say.
But I will look into that from what you suggested. I will definitely.
And I will look into the cattle farming in the UK. Because I didn't know that.
But the argument, I think that the crux to it that comes, that we keep coming to, that I think is the bone of contention, if you like, is the animals themselves. Do we view animals as being as beautiful, special, loving, sentient beings that deserve to be alive, that deserve to have a life, that deserve to have a family, that do not deserve for us to place them in a category of slaves, of a product? Why do we have to use the chicken and fatten it, even if it's in a nice way? Like imagine if it's a serial killer. He kidnapped a couple of people. One he killed lived a horrific life and killed in a horrific way, and one he made her live in a really nice place and then eventually killed her in a horrific way. At the end is the same. It's not. It's morally repugnant.
Morally bankrupt.
Yeah, it's not right.
I'm not too sure. I do feel that all life should have the opportunity, the right to the opportunity for life. whether they have a right to live indefinitely or
just
to
live
not
their
be killed.
lives, because a lot of these animals are killed in childhood.
Yeah.
They don't even
But
reach
so
adult
are they in
age.
nature, though. That's the problem. I mean,
Yeah,
a
but
lot of
remember,
death rate is infant mortality.
we're doing it in huge number. We're breeding them in huge numbers. We're killing them in huge
Yeah.
numbers. We're using them as commodities, as products. And
Yeah.
is that right?
I mean, if we dissect that out into two parts, the first one is it right that lots of animals die early on? That does happen in the wild. That's why lots of creatures have large clutches of eggs, because most of them are going to die
Yes, yeah.
very early on. So infant mortality is a natural thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think what separates our situation from the natural world is that we have higher cognitive function, so we kind of
We're
maybe have a
superior.
choice.
Yeah, we're almost like their guardian, aren't we? Because we
Yeah.
have that intelligence.
We
and that
do have a
knowledge.
choice, we do. But I think the choice is between, it's not just life and death of the animal.
Yeah.
I think that's what veganism wants to believe, is that it's a choice because we can remove meat and be just as healthy. So therefore it just comes down to the moral idea of
Yes.
do we kill or do we not kill?
Yeah, yeah.
I have 2 points on that. One is, I think it is also the right of animals to take life as well as give life. You see that again in every creature in nature, and you see that throughout human history too. And you talk about slaves as well. It's a bit of a contentious subject.
Yeah, yeah.
But every single independent human society has always had a slave caste.
Yeah.
It seems to be an integral
Yeah.
part of society.
Yeah,
And even
yeah.
if you look at contemporary society, it may not have the label of slave, but
Yeah.
a lot of people would live lives that are very synonymous with the word,
Yes,
if you think
yes,
about it.
Yes.
So I don't know if you could ever remove that.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe we should aim it. The fact that it's been happening for a long time
It implies it's
doesn't mean.
necessary.
It doesn't mean that it's something that we should always keep doing. There are lots of societies and civilizations that has very unhealthy cultural ideas, like suppressing women,
Yes,
or
yes,
abusing
yes,
children. And for them,
Yes.
that is cultural, and that's not. It doesn't
Right.
make it right.
I agree with you,
Yeah?
but those are independent cases.
Yeah.
Certain cultures will.
Yeah.
This is a universal case of every single human culture will have this prevalence.
But because like you said, we initially were animals and we evolve over
Yeah.
time. We develop intelligence, we develop
We can change
spirituality, creativity. Exactly. We don't have to do this anymore.
So I
when we
think-
don't have to,
yeah.
when the choice is really clear,
Yeah.
and choosing to eat plant-based diet
Yeah.
will save the environment, will save the animals and our health. For me, it's a no-brainer.
Okay, so let's move on to the health thing then. I think that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't believe
And
it
it's a
is
powerful one
healthy.
because what's the biggest killer in the West?
Atherosclerosis,
Heart
right?
disease,
Yeah,
exactly, heart
yeah.
disease and strokes, and cancers as well are
Right.
quite common, 1 in 3 people, and that is directly linked with eating
LDL
meat products.
right?
Yeah.
If we look at atherosclerosis, then
Yeah.
biggest killer, it's been linked to LDL. I'm not convinced that is the cause. I think it's more of a case of correlation not equaling causation. If you open up a
So you're
corpse,
doubting the results of hundreds of studies.
I'm doubting the interpretation of the results.
Yeah.
If we look at the results, what it says is when you open up someone's died of a heart attack, there's lots of plaque,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Plaque is LDL. Now, what I've heard recently, and it makes a degree of sense, is that the LDL, the plaque buildup, is there to heal scar tissue in the blood vessels, in the muscle tissue, that's created not by cholesterol,
Yes.
but by sugar.
Yeah.
The sugar,
so like endothelial cell damage.
that damages the cells,
yeah.
and then the body redirects the cholesterol to try and save itself. So it's almost as though coming to a site of an accident and blaming the ambulance
But
for
you
the
know
accident.
what? No, I completely understand what you're saying, and you're probably correct. Lots of things in the body that are linked with disease does have a dual function,
Yeah.
and it does have a benefit or
Yeah.
a healing function or a protective function. I completely agree with that. But then when it's overdone, when when we're eating lots of like. If you look at pictures from people from the 70s, they're all really slim.
Yes.
They didn't have the explosion of dietary temptation that we have currently. Like you go to the garage,
Yes.
you pay for your fuel, in front of you, huge stack of chocolates,
Yeah.
big sizes, all sizes, donuts, crisps. It's very unhealthy. So we see that as just a snack, as a treat. And then you go and eat like really unhealthy meals as
Yeah.
well. It all adds up. And all of that causes diseases in the body.
I agree.
Lots of processed food,
agree.
lots of high sugar,
Yeah.
which is transformed into to the body by insulin into fat.
I agree.
You know, so our diet is not good, and you know, vegan people live 8 to 9 years longer than.
Again, I've heard this.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
also
know
by
if
studies.
I don't know if length is also a good causation
Like I say,
of health.
Yeah, I see
you
what
know.
you say. Is it quality or quantity
Yeah,
as well?
yeah.
But they do.
But okay,
and you know, lots of people think if you're a vegan,
Yeah.
you have like some kind of food deficiency, protein
Yes,
deficiency.
yeah.
And actually, there was a study that shown deficiencies in proteins and vitamins was 70% higher in people who
Yes.
ate meat
Yes.
because they were eating lots of unhealthy food.
Yes.
While people who are vegan, they were eating lots of variety of food,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
legumes, nuts, leaves, you know, like green leaves, broccoli, all this kind of stuff. So you seem to agree on the environment bit, but obviously with what points we want to review ourselves.
I don't know if I agree in the environment.
But you said that animal
Contributes.
agriculture, yeah, that's what I mean.
Contributes along
You
with
partly
plant
agree.
agriculture.
Sorry.
Basically, agriculture in general destroys
Yeah,
the environment.
this is not-
So
yeah,
it's not
and-
an argument to base your diet
Oh,
on.
no, yeah.
So that's what I say.
Yeah, and the health bit you agree with as well.
No.
You don't think the health? You don't think eating animal products is unhealthy?
No, I think
Or
again,
causes cancer?
like we said about atherosclerosis,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not the animal product which is the
But
cause.
it's fact. It's science. You know.
It's science that
Yeah.
they find plaque buildup of LDL.
But it causes cancer as well.
Right, so the carcinogenic stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
again, if we look at the last generation,
Yeah.
you said there's an explosion of unhealthy food.
Yes,
What
yeah.
is that food? It's plant-based.
Yeah.
It's an explosion of sugar, of chocolate, of
That is
soy,
animal
of
based.
cereal. It's
The
not.
chocolate is
There's
is
milk
from
in it,
dairy.
maybe,
Yeah.
but that's not the main
And-
constituent.
Yeah, no, but
You know?
it's derived from that.
But people in the 70s had a lot
also
of dairy
but
all the way
also-
through, you know?
Yeah, but
were-
it's not, dairy is not healthy. Do you know that in milk,
Yeah.
you get 130 million pus cell per 100 ml? We actually
Yeah,
drink
yeah.
pus.
I know.
Which is not healthy.
It doesn't sound
inflammatory.
healthy.
It triggers inflammatory reactions in the body, particularly if you have allergic tendencies like eczema or asthma. I would strongly advise, my patients
Yes,
if they
yeah.
have brittle asthma or eczema,
Yeah.
and there've been cases that I have seen, they stop the dairy and their condition improved dramatically.
And I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see how maybe hormones in the
Yeah,
milk,
yeah.
which would be made for bovine,
yeah,
but I think
and the pus, which is basically
Maybe.
bacterial end
maybe
product.
there's a lot
you
of
know?
good stuff in there too.
Yeah.
But if we take just the dairy argument then, okay, and we say
Yeah.
dairy is unhealthy for us, why is it unhealthy for us? Because we're not meant to drink it.
Yeah.
It's for our car.
It's for a car.
Right,
exactly.
so what are we meant to eat? And again, if we base that argument on evolution,
Yeah.
like we discussed
Yeah.
already, we're
Yeah.
meant to eat meat. We're
Yeah.
not meant to eat plants. And therefore, if we take that same argument for dairy,
Yeah.
you kind of have to apply it to ourselves, and it's very difficult to not come to the conclusion then of, okay,
Yeah.
then therefore we should up our meat intake and not
Yeah.
decrease it.
Yeah.
So if we want to spin that argument on health, it's difficult to get veganism out of it as well.
But you know, when you say we're meant to eat meat, the fact that you're meant to do something doesn't mean you should continue to do it if it's morally wrong.
So that is a decent argument we could make. And again, we talk about the morals of it, about
Yeah.
morality in nature
Yeah,
versus...
yeah. You know, like if
agriculture.
somebody could rape, for example, if somebody could do something
Okay,
very nasty
yeah.
and wrong, the fact that they could do
For sure.
it doesn't make it
No.
right or moral.
But there is no black and white in the world, it's all shades of grey.
Yeah,
so now,
yeah,
if
yeah.
we, for example, hypothetically take the stance of, okay, meat is healthy for us, the exclusion of meat makes us unhealthy because it's natural, right? But we shouldn't eat it because it's morally wrong. So now we're choosing between sacrificing our own health for the livelihood of
But that
animals.
is not true because, honestly,
It's
as I said,
hypothetical.
honestly,
yeah.
I know the scientific argument because I studied it, I looked
mean,
into
I'm
it, and I've
pretty
seen,
well-versed
and I've
in it
seen
too.
patients,
Yeah.
who are really sick with many
Yeah.
diseases caused by high consumption of animal products,
I
You've got
don't know.
diabetes, obesity.
I wouldn't agree with
Yeah,
that.
no, it is true though. And if you look
wouldn't
at the studies, eating animals is bad for our health.
I mean, a lot of those studies
It's
are...
linked with dementia. It's linked, eating meat is
Okay.
linked with dementia,
So
with
if,
cancer.
if we take dementia,
Yeah.
you should know this, the main solution for dementia in all medical practice is a ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
to lower the carbs. There is
Yeah.
no carbohydrate
Yeah.
in animal product.
Yeah.
So therefore, it doesn't make sense to go vegan for someone suffering from dementia. Cancer, we know, responds to high sugar, high carb. These are plant-based macronutrients.
No, but there's been linked
no?
with the actual chemicals and hormones pumped into
Things
the
like
meat
arachidonic
that
acid and
triggers,
things.
That triggers amyloid plaques in the brain.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
if we talk about maybe hormones being pumped into the meat, antibiotics.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. An unhealthy animal isn't healthy to eat, but I don't support industrialization. I would prefer to source my meat from organic farms. I think the healthier the meat, the healthier their life is, the healthier we are. I agree with that. But I think to label a lot of the modern diseases that erupted in the last generation on meat is really ridiculous.
But you know what? Honestly, I am not labeling that myself. I am only stating the facts that's been proven by huge studies around the world.
If we look into the studies, I mean, there's the China study as well, things like that. They are not based on carnivorous diets. They're talking about burgers. There's a bun involved with that. There's a fries involved with that.
It's in more in generic terms of meat eating rather than the way you think it should be, which is completely unsustainable, to be honest. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, it probably is.
That's completely not sustainable. So it's lost the argument in that way, you know?
I don't know, because then we're choosing...
There is an idyllic, dreamy way of saying we should all live in harmony in this way.
I don't know,
we should rear the meat and then kill it in a peaceful manner. But no killing will ever be peaceful, you know? The animals will fight. And it would be stressed, and it wouldn't want to die. Nobody wants to die.
I completely agree with you. I think it isn't sustainable. But what I do believe is that if you can do it, you have to do it, because you will sacrifice your health. Just like if you've looked at society, there is a hierarchy.
Yes.
People will fall into the hierarchy. Unfortunately, I would let veganism just go and allow veganism to create that hierarchy itself. But I disagree with the agenda of indoctrination, and I don't like the idea that right now kids are being brought up with the idea that meat is unhealthy. The studies that have concluded that they are, at best, there are other interpretations you can make, and they're not conducted properly.
These are massive international studies from around the world, including studies that have been approved by the United Nations, by the World Health Organization, by the National Association of Dietetics in America and Britain. I mean, all these separate huge institutions cannot be...
But how much faith do you have in these big institutions when ultimately our health is getting worse?
We have to believe in the science. We have to believe in the science. If they're doing the scientific approach properly and doing research studies properly and saying these are the facts, this is the significant factor with this. We have to, even people who studied it and review it, and actually the evidence shows for itself. There is a whole movement of doctors who are vegan now in the UK and in America, and they have seen amazing results with their own eyes, with their patients, and getting much healthier on a vegan diet.
I mean, there's a lot of other factors involved. I mean, if you go vegan, you tend to be more health conscious in general. You're cutting out a lot of the processed stuff. No longer it is more now as vegan becomes mainstream. You can now, you couldn't before when a lot of these studies were being published, right? So maybe they are slightly anachronistic when you look at the current scientific community. But again, if we look at big corporations, do we really have faith in them, man? I mean, they created the food pyramid, they created the diabetes epidemic now. So I don't put my faith in them now either. But they're trying to change now, aren't they? Like M&S is bringing a vegan range, Iceland is bringing a vegan range, and Sainsbury's got a vegan range, Tesco's got a vegan range, and they're bringing a Christmas special as well. But they are, but they're listening, they're seeing that things are changing, and people want plant-based, people want to save the environment. People don't want animals to suffer and be killed in the horrific way. They know 97% of them are being killed that way. So they're saying, I don't want my money to go into that. I want to change the way I can. And I respect that. I mean, it shows that people do care about the environment, and I love that.
And the animals.
And the animals, I would go about it a slightly different way, a more mature way. It's a little bit childlike. It's a little bit too honouring the ideas of Disney or something. Ultimately, death is a very integral part of nature.
We know that,
Consumption
and I know
that.
As a doctor, exactly. And sometimes this is a necessity. It's needed. It's a relief. It's a mercy. But we are talking about billions of creatures that, like I said to you, they're intensively bred. I actually call it the modern day Holocaust. What's happening to the animal? Me and lots of other vegans liken it to the Holocaust, because all these animals are put into tight containers. They're filthy. They've been shipped to places, sometimes weeks at a time, with no water, no food, stressed, struggling, and they get killed as well, and they get gassed. And they have a number. Can you see how it's like a Holocaust?
I can see similarities. I want to ask you a question now, though. talking about health again.
Yeah.
In terms, the research I've done as well, in terms of the ancestral way of eating with meat, making it seem as though it's healthy for us, I've also quite recently come into the idea of plants being unhealthy for you. If we
What
think,
kind of plants?
right.
Yeah.
So if we think about the basic premise that everything wants to survive, so do plants. They do not want to be consumed.
Yeah.
They will have natural chemical defenses to prevent that.
Yeah.
And if we look at...
But they don't have a complex nervous system. They don't have a brain,
No,
a
so
spinal cord, or
ethically,
eyes.
we can make some grounds for argument.
But yeah, just to
Basic
clarify,
survival,
most plants don't have a complex nervous system.
But they wish to
And
reproduce and
a lot
propagate.
of the time they don't experience pain. Fish does.
No, that's right.
A lot of people don't realize it, but fish does.
But they do defend themselves. And they defend themselves through a lot of chemicals. If we look at a lot of...
they're sophisticated creatures,
and the defenses are concentrated in the parts of the plant which are more important for the plant. So the seed, for example, is the vehicle of reproduction. It does not want that to be digested. It's going to pack a lot of dangerous stuff in there.
However, there are lots of plants that are designed in such a way that they spread their seeds around, and they want the animal to take their seeds to fertilize the ground.
Even if we talk about...
So there's a variety of plants.
Epizoochory and endozoochory. Endozoochory is ingested. If you do that, you do not want to eat the seed or ingest the seed, right? And the seed will have inbuilt things. If we look at oats, for example, like the seed, it's got phytic acid in there, which is an anti-nutrient. It binds to lots of minerals, stop you from absorbing it. It's got oxalates in there. Oxalates again are another type of salt, and a link to pesticides within the plant for it to prevent being eaten. If we think about very, very popular mainstream health foods like kale and spinach, they are packed full of salicylates, oxalates, pesticides. And I can't not believe that these are detrimental to human health. If we think about how many plants that are just toxic, plain right toxic, it doesn't make sense. And if you think about a calorific...
You're right, this is a good argument. Some plants are toxic, but we're not advocating eating the toxic plants.
No,
we're advocating eating the plants that are widely available, that human history and generation has been eating for a long time, and it's very good for us, you know?
I'm arguing for a spectrum of toxicity. So you've got the very toxic plants on one hand that will kill you. Down here you've got the kale, right? So you can eat it, but it's still going to poison you in small amounts. People who are immunocompromised are going to have a lot of a less defense against these things, so they're going to get sicker quicker.
So we should have clearer warnings with regards to that to them straight away anyway. But
we should not eat them, you know? I don't know if it's healthy for you. And if you think about just a simple calories in, calories out, and you are foraging in the wild, it doesn't make any sense to gather leafy greens. They are way too low in calorie. You are going to die if you
but we don't live in the wild, do we?
We don't, but I should be a good...
You know, that's another argument. People put this kind of argument, like it's almost like if we're cavemen. But if you're a caveman, you'll have no internet, you'll have no warm home, you'll have no phone. Everything we have, we take as a luxury and a necessity.
Absolutely.
For the 21st century will be gone. And we you know, that's not a reality. We don't live in the wild, and very rarely people forage. Even when they go on a camping trip, we have our food already packed with us, or we'll be close to a pub. It's something, you know, we're not, like a Stone Age human anymore.
But I think it's a very good indicator of what we are supposed to eat in terms of what's healthy.
But still, the morality argument will come to it. The fact that, you know, we can eat it, we can digest it, we have been.
But now the morals are getting blurry, because now we're thinking, okay, if plants aren't so healthy and they make us sick, the moral argument becomes, do we sacrifice our health for the sake of the animals? And therefore, do we value animal life more than human life? And it becomes very, very dodgy ground when
every life. We believe every life is sacred. Every life.
Right,
human and
human
animal.
Life.
Yeah, of course.
Should we sacrifice human health for the sake of the animals? Personally, I disagree.
Yeah, we believe a vegan diet and a vegan way of life is very, very healthy, and it will not affect. Have you seen the new movie Game Changers?
I have.
What do you think?
I think it's
what do you think?
Honestly, I think it's a form of propaganda.
Right.
If you look at a lot of those athletes right now, they are doing very badly in their fields. This film was made a couple of years ago. I can't remember the name of the guy, but there was is it Cam Newton, American football player, who got his team to do vegetarianism. He's either injured or he's retired now, one of the two. The strong man guy, obviously anyways on the gear, he's on steroids, but he didn't even become world's strongest man, and lately his PBs have been getting worse. And there's a few other examples of the cyclists who's injured now.
Yeah.
A couple of others are injured now.
Yeah.
What I think happens when you go vegan is that you cut out a lot of processed stuff, and that gives you an initial boost of health. Long term, you go into autophagy because you're not giving your body proper nutrition.
What is proper nutrition?
Animal-based products. That's where the most nutrients and bioavailable nutrients are.
Okay, and that's actually I don't believe in that at all.
Well, if
I
you
really
look at, if you
I
just
really
look at a
don't.
micronutrient spectrum, it's got every single micronutrient we need apart from vitamin
And plants
C.
do as well.
There's over 50 nutrients we can't get from plants. I mean, just look at things like vitamin D or even things like vitamin B12.
Vitamin D you get it from the sun. Vitamin B12 comes from a bacteria in the ground. Animals don't have vitamin B12. You know the cattle, they inject them. No, they inject them or they put it in their feed.
Oh, that's not true.
So it's a supplement. No, it is.
That's
If you research, if you look at these
There's
documentaries.
B12 in all animal flesh.
No, yeah, but it's because they put it in their feed.
Even wild animal flesh that can't be injected.
No, but honestly, they put with the cattle that we eat has the meat that they produce has B12 because they put it in their feed or they inject it with it. Honestly, that is standard practice. And I've heard farmers talk about that.
I can imagine they fortify it with B12, but B12 is present in large amounts.
And it's
in
present
flesh.
and you know, it's also you can get it from plants.
I've heard it's in the soil, and I've heard certain vegans eat
Basically,
soil.
you know exactly. When you get potatoes or carrots, any of those root vegetables, when you wash them, don't wash them thoroughly. And if you bake them and stuff like that, if it has a little bit of soil, that's quite enriched. It has enough vitamin B12 for
I've heard of that.
No, it's honestly true. It's honestly true.
Let's assume that it's true.
And I'm not a nutritionist who believe in that and does that.
Let's assume it's true and there's B12 in soil on plants. Then we've got to talk about bioavailability.
Yeah.
So is it the matrix that is constrained within that nutrition? Is it easier for a body to assimilate in an animal form than a soil form?
No,
It's got
plants.
to be.
No. Listen, when you eat an animal, the flesh, it's bloody, it's tough, it stays in your stomach and in your bowel for 8 hours, still digesting and fermenting, creating free radical and antitoxins that causes the cancerous change to happen in your bowel. Plants don't do that. And when you think of protein, they're just simple amino acids, blocks that make the protein molecule. When you consume plant and you break those amino acids, they're easily broken, easily digested and assimilated into our muscle tissue and repair processes than eating flesh.
That's very interesting. I would argue the opposite. I feel like we are flesh and blood. It makes sense that flesh and blood is way easier for a body to assimilate into flesh and blood than cellulose, which we are not at all. We don't even have
Imagine you've got a little vase or a flask, and you put in it, say, some celery or cucumber, and you break it down, and you do the same with another flask with a bit of meat, cube of meat, flesh, and you try and break it down. Which one do you think is going to break down easily and quicker?
What's the medium you're breaking it down in?
Let's say water. Obviously, that one will break easily, isn't it? The meat is not going to break down that easily.
No.
Yeah? Do you see what I mean? Like
in water.
In simplicity, even when you break it, it's a tough, dense, fibrous tissue.
Oh, I wouldn't say
your body,
that.
Of course it is. It's made of muscles and tendons.
It's made of proteins
and fibers,
and
but
lipids.
because it's a tough tissue, it's made of muscle fibers and fibrils.
Which are far more easy to digest than cellulose, which we have no capability to digest.
No, plants don't just have cellulose.
Most of the structure is cellulose.
You know, but it has nutrients in it and proteins and other stuff that when you break the plant structure integrity down on its skin, that is easily absorbed and assimilated into your body.
I don't know, man. I mean, if you look at our gut digestive system like we talked about earlier, we don't have a gut built for digesting plants. That's why we wouldn't have a vestigial cecum, you know. And I mean, cellulose itself, if you have ruminant animals, they have specialist ruminant systems to digest those cellulose and plants.
Yeah, but sometimes that's good for as a fibrous source to
a bit of roughage, maybe.
It reduces diverticular disease and it really protects against bowel cancer as well. You know, it's all in balance. And to be honest, most people are significantly fiber and cellulose deficient than normal. Yeah, they are. That's what the study shows, and that's what we advocate people to eat more fiber, because a lot of people don't.
I think fiber is very damaging. It's a gut irritant at the end of the day. It scrapes along the inside of your gut, and a lot of autoimmune issues are from gut health, creating leaky gut and things like this. Now, fiber is going to do that a lot quicker too than meat. I think we're consuming way too much fiber. I believe fiber has its place. I do. Like you said, to clear you out and to have a little bit of roughage. If you look at wild carnivores, wolves, bears,
Yeah.
even cats, they eat a bit of
Yeah.
grass now
Yeah,
and
they
again.
do, yeah,
But it's
yeah.
very much the minority of the
Yeah,
diet.
yeah.
Us, it's the majority right now.
Yeah.
I think if
Yeah.
you look
But
at
we're not cats and wolves and
But
bears
remember,
and
we've got a
bears.
digestive system
Yeah,
that's more
but
similar
we have
to cats
evolved.
and dogs.
No.
Canids and felines, we're right in between where
Yeah,
facultative.
but we are different. We are different.
In
We
terms
have
of-
the choice, and we can.
Morally we're different, but
Yeah.
not in terms of our digestion and what we find easier to digest and assimilate as food. Morally, yes, but
Yeah.
again, if we looked at that argument,
Yeah.
it was a little bit blurry too.
Yeah,
Because when we
yeah.
think about human health deteriorating
Yeah.
with ingestion of plants, we're sacrificing human health for plants
Yeah.
and animals, and it gets
Okay.
all a bit confusing.
Well, you know, there's been some really interesting points that you've raised that I
Yeah,
will
so-
definitely
yeah,
look
yeah.
into.
Yeah, I would definitely
But I hope,
recommend.
I will. You tell
Yeah,
me.
look into some of those nasty
Yeah.
plant
Yeah.
defences,
Yeah.
oxalates, salicylates,
Yeah.
things like that, and have a look into the amount of death
Yeah.
that goes into
And the monocrops,
monocrops,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I know you said earlier as well the amount of water that takes to feed
irrigation,
beef,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now I did zoology as my
Yeah,
undergrad,
yeah.
and we looked into this. These
Yeah.
studies, they are hyperinflated. It's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
They took very, very dry conditions for beef in the middle of a drought or something,
Yeah.
and then they heaped all the water on them, and then
Yeah.
they published that for beef worldwide
Yes.
when it was a very particular circumstance.
Yes,
It
yeah.
was very irresponsible scientific publishing. And if you look at water use in general, oh my gosh, crops, rice paddies, they use huge amounts
Yeah,
of
we
water.
know that. When we don't, we don't
Yeah.
advocate particularly using crops that are going to be highly, extreme in their
I've
water needs.
never heard that in a vegan
Yeah.
argument.
No,
before.
honestly,
Be
honestly.
vegan, but don't use crops that have a lot of water.
Yeah,
Because then
no,
you've
but,
had
but
it.
we
You've got
do,
a rice.
we do have an actual list where we say
Yeah.
use oats, use soya because they use less water.
Yeah,
because the
oats,
environment is a big thing, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
honestly, if you look at our leaflets and other literature, it will actually mention that. So I'm
Yeah,
aware
yeah.
of that.
Yeah, of
so they do
course,
actually,
yeah.
vegans between themselves say
good.
that rice is not a good crop
Good.
to use,
So to
and
s-
almond
yeah.
milk as well. It actually uses a lot
Oh,
of water.
almonds are-
It uses a lot of water. So I usually try and advocate
Yeah,
to do
good,
something more
good.
environmentally friendly.
Good, I'm glad about that.
Even within the
Yeah.
vegan world, there are good and bad choices.
Yeah.
Same with the meat eating world.
Industrialization versus free
But
range,
it's been very, very
everything.
nice to talk to
You too, it's been beautiful. But sum up though.
Yeah.
So the question is,
Yeah.
what is the question?
Basically, if you're not a vegan,
Yeah,
you support animal cruelty.
change my mind, right?
Yeah.
Have I in any way changed your mind?
No. Do you believe somehow, if you're a meat eater, you are paying towards animal cruelty?
I believe as an eater in general,
Yeah.
as a person that exists on the earth,
Yeah.
you will support animal cruelty because it is.
So you agree with our
nature.
statement?
I disagree. The
No.
statement revolves around the premise
Yeah.
that if you're a vegan,
You
do
don't.
not support cruelty. Therefore, if you're not a vegan, you do.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, as someone that exists in the
Yeah,
world, using
yeah.
up resources,
So do you think
you will always
vegans and
support.
but do you think vegans and meat eaters contribute to animal cruelty at the same level?
Oh, at the same rate.
The same level.
I think when you factor in human health
Yeah.
deterioration
Yeah.
on animal on plant diets and monocultures, I think it's close. I think it's about equal. I think if we were to have
So the
hypothetically,
meat eaters and the vegan create the same amount of suffering
yeah,
and pain and torture. 56 billion animals
yes,
are killed every year and suffering.
because you have to scale up the sentient level, right? So most of the animals that are slaughtered are chickens.
Yeah.
They're not as sentient as pigs.
Of course they are.
Right?
Of course they are.
They're not
They
as
are. They are intelligent. There's been new
They're not
studies.
as intelligent
No,
as
they
pigs,
are.
no.
No, honestly, there's been a
Chicken.
new. Yes, there's been studies that showed they basically they got the chicken.
Yeah.
Chickens basically there's a door and there's a lock.
Yeah.
In the experiment, and the chicken was clever that were unlocking the lock themselves, and the experiment had to be stopped several times to change the lock rotation. And they were doing that because they're trying to get to the cockerel who had a treat for her. Chicken are actually very intelligent and very curious.
I don't
People
doubt
don't realize
no.
that.
I mean, corvids, extremely intelligent species of birds, right?
But they
Magpies and
are,
crows.
and the black crows are considered as almost
But if you can pick a lock,
But
I'll get to it.
his intelligence is a sign. Basically, if you got people who have disabilities,
Yeah.
does it mean that their life is not worth it?
No, but the
You see
level
what
of
I mean?
suffering goes up. So what I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
if you look at the magnitude of animals
But do they
slaughtered,
deserve to be treated less because their sentient level in your eyes is low?
Ooh, well then you have to factor in why we're hurting them, right? So if you've got someone disabled and they're not a sentient somebody else, why are we hurting them? And then you can begin to argue. If they've done something that hypothetically justifies the suffering, and you have someone that can suffer less because they can't emotionally, they're not sensitive to it, or someone that suffers more, clearly it's better to make the person who can experience the suffering suffer more.
Yeah.
Because that's how much they can relate to their environment, you know. But then you've got to, that's getting really contentious, and you've got to look at other factors to that. But if we look at the magnitude of death, most of the things are chickens. Fair enough, they could be intelligent, and I'm sure they are, but they're not as intelligent as pigs.
Does it not make them less worthy? Their life is not important. You know that chickens show a lot of empathy to their young.
Yeah,
a lot of empathy.
I mean, birds are pretty bad with their young in general.
But the chicken actually been shown to show empathy. Empathy has been thought to be a human-only emotion, but science and studies have shown chicken has empathy towards their young.
Sure they do. I mean,
it's quite astounding how they protect them and worry about them and want the best for them, just like a human would for its baby.
I don't know about that strongly, but really. I'm sure they'd have some level of empathy for their young ones. I mean, a lot of birds are pretty horrific with their young ones. They will leave them, and for example, cockerels will kill chicks wherever they find them. Ducks, mallards will leave the chicks go off on their own and be killed by things. So they're not the greatest example of empathy, but I see it there. But I do think that if we base on the assumption that eating meat now is healthy, right? It's critical for our life. I'd rather kill loads of things for that health, which can't experience pain as much as creatures which could.
But we have lots of vegans who've been alive and healthy, and athletes as well. Like Lewis Hamilton,
he's a car
Venus
driver.
Williams. Yeah, but he still needs to be in a level of fitness and very sharp reflexes to perform to the level that he performs. And you've got the world tennis player, number one player now,
Djokovic.
He's a vegan as well.
How long has he been vegan for? Do you know?
I think a few years. I'm really not sure. But all I'm saying is these people. I'm just trying to show you a point that these people are vegan. They are healthy. They are the top at their level of performance. So they don't need meat for their health. That's just to show you that point.
But given that
we don't need meat.
I don't know if you heard me earlier with the game changers. Most of the case studies there.
You have, I've heard that.
They are now injured or retired.
But I'm just trying to say, but there's still lots of other top world athletes that are existing now that are the top of their game. That they are vegan. How you find that like you don't know how to argue against that?
No, in terms of when we say there's a lot of them.
Deficient.
I can think of Djokovic. I don't know how long he's been vegan for. I don't think it's a long time. Maybe a few years maximum, right?
So what does that mean? Even if it's a year or 2 years?
So, like I said, I think what happens is these athletes build up their physical fitness and muscle memory through years of training on animal products, right? And then they go vegan at the peak of their game when their body systems are in the best shape of their life.
You think like they've developed their peak because of the meat, and now they suddenly say, I'm vegan.
Yes. So now they say, I'm going to go vegan.
That's a very easy,
It makes sense, doesn't it?
No.
They say,
it doesn't make sense.
Well, it does.
It doesn't. But I respect your point of view, but honestly, it doesn't.
But if we look at Djokovic as a case study, he wasn't vegan all his life. Let's say, for example, he's been vegan for 3 years. I don't know how long he's been. I don't know how old he is, late 50s. He spent 30-odd years training on animal products because he wasn't a vegan.
But we don't know that. He might have been a vegetarian, He might...
If he was, it would have been publicised.
But
and...
What if he was a vegan,
for his life?
Would that surprise
There is no
you?
example of that. That would surprise me massively. I don't think there is an example of that.
If we found that, so if somebody's a vegan from childhood or from a really young years and performed really well, that's the thing you really need to see to convince you.
That would be a big step forward, that would be. But none such exists to my knowledge. And if you look at Lewis Hamilton, his career is driving massive amounts of Formula 1 cars, polluting the environment way more than his vegan diet could help.
Exactly. But I think he feels bad about that, and I think he wants to change it from what he come across and said about the environment.
I hope so.
But it's been really nice to talk to you.
You too. It's been lovely talking to you.
Much.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
You so much.
Thank you too.